Hello everyone, welcome to episode 35 of ZK Live. Tonight we have John from Paint School. I always forget the name of his company because I always interact with him as Paint School. John has a very successful painting company that he's built in California, and we're gonna dive deep into probably a lot of business stuff. Also, he painted quite a bit, so we'll probably talk about some painting stuff, the nuts and bolts of it as well. Very excited to have him on. I've got to meet John in person before, which is always cool. We met at PCA, got to hang out for a little bit. One more reason to go to PCA Expo. Hey John.
What's up, man?
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
You guys been through that black gloss project?
We got some PTSD around that one.
Yeah. All right, we don't have to talk about it.
No, it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah.
We'll get it done. I was able to call in the world's best gloss team.
Yeah.
On a last-second phone call, and we have 5 of the best craftsmen in the country crushing it.
Cool. Now you just got to not worry about it and wake up again tomorrow and do it all over, right?
Only do what I can do, and the rest I have to let go.
That's a big deal in the painting business.
It's
is not worrying about everything. Especially as you grow and take on more projects, not worrying about every little thing all the time. There's too much stuff going on.
Yeah. How do you do it?
I compartmentalize things really well. So I don't really take much stress home with me or anything like that. I don't take anything personally. It's business, right? If a customer is upset with me about something, it's business. We're doing the right thing to fix it. People make mistakes. It is what it is. We're going to do the best thing we can to fix it, right? Make it right. So I feel confident in that. I'm comfortable in it. I know we're doing right by them. I know that if somebody else made that mistake, they might not, right? We're handling it the best way that anybody could. So it's fine.
Was it always that way for you?
Probably most of the time. Yeah, I wouldn't take it personally so much, but I would be worried about my image, worried about image if I made a mistake on a project or something like that. Now it's been long enough to where I'm not worried about image because I know that one project is not going to hurt my image, right? We're bigger than that one project. We're bigger than one unhappy customer. I never want them, right? I never want to have an unhappy customer, and I do everything I can to not have one. But I know if they come, and they're going to come, right? I know if they do, it's not the end of the world, I know that we're a solid company, and we're legit, we're above board all the way. And if we have to pay someone else to make it right, we will, right? It's whatever it takes to make it right, to make sure that we're fulfilling our end of the deal, we'll do it, no doubt. So.
Do you think some of it has to do with your just cool California vibes that you have?
I know that my temperament is very mellow. I've been told that a lot, and I think it helps. I'm definitely not a very anxious person. I do a lot to mitigate stress. But yeah, it definitely helps. I think if I'm calm and cool about the situation, they're more likely to be the same, right? They'll match my emotion, typically. And every now and then I get someone who's not going to, but it is what it is, right? Solve it and move on to the next one. Eventually, it'll all be a memory, right?
I respect that. I definitely don't come from, my nature is not to be calm, chill. You just roll with the punches, and I can see there's a great advantage to that because you don't have to work as hard as I do to have clear and good perspective.
Right.
It
serves me well, for sure.
Yeah, I can tell. Because you have $1 billion paint empire at this point, right?
Not quite. We're working on it. Well, we were working our way up there, and then we came down a little bit, get some things shored up.
For people who don't know you, can you just give us a rough idea of how you got into the business and how you got here?
Yeah. So I started painting My last year in high school, over summer with the girl I dated's brother-in-law. He had a painting business, so I worked a summer with him, and then I worked for him after high school for a couple years. I worked for 3 or 4 companies, like right out of high school, while I was going to college, and then started doing like side jobs on the weekend. You know, that was a time when phone books still were in use, right? So I took out a couple phone book ads, like 30, $40 a month. Started getting jobs from that, just little jobs. And I built a real strong niche in small jobs. You know, I was like a guy who was extremely reliable, um, showed up on time, and would do a small project. I would come out and paint one door, right? And it's like, now you could go make 10 calls and not get somebody that's going to paint one door for you, right? And if you get one person that says yes, they'll paint it, they're probably not going to show up, or they're going to show up late, or whatever, right? Even now, there's still a niche for that. If somebody wanted to be a one-man shop and do small projects only, and go make $200 or $300 a day for the rest of their life, they could. You know, there's still a niche for that. But so I did that for like 2 or 3 years. You know, just doing small projects only. And then, you know, just slowly built, added on some employees, kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, you know, that whole deal. And now I'm about maybe like 21, 22 years in. And we hover right now around 20 employees, around 20 painters, plus an estimator and then myself. And this year we're probably on track to do like 1.7 or 1.8 million. Last year we did a little more, the year before that a lot more, but things went haywire. So we reeled it in, and now we got good profit margin and smooth sailing so far.
That's awesome. What would you say your average job size is? You probably actually.
We're about 5,300.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know those numbers. About 5,300 a project, and you know we get some that are as low as like $500, but most of them are like, I don't know. We do a lot that are like in the 10,000 range. We do a handful that are 20,000 plus. But yeah, probably like 5 to 10,000 is pretty typical.
So then, what's your average crew size on a project?
2 or 3. So like on a, you know, like a $5,000 exterior, we're probably 2 or 3 guys, and we'll do it in a week, right? 5 days, start to finish. We schedule most of our projects for a Monday to Friday timeline. So we're starting on a Monday, we're finishing on Friday. And I'll kind of build my crews around that. If it's a short project, you know, if it's long term, we'll do a different setup. You know, right now we have a hotel that we're doing. And so that one, it's not Monday to Friday, start to finish. It's going to be going on for a couple months. But the majority of our projects, kitchen cabinet refinish, interiors, exteriors, whatever, we try to almost always plan on Monday to Friday, start to finish. You know, and that's cleaner on the schedule. That'll kind of dictate our crew size a little bit. You know, so if it's a bigger project, if it's an $8,000 exterior, we might have 3 guys on that one. If it's a $4,000 exterior, probably 2 guys. You know, we just kind of adjust it that way.
And they're all employees, is that right?
All employees, all W-2, taxes, work comp, the whole deal. It's expensive to do it that way. You know, at the expo, there's a handful of guys that are doing really big numbers that are doing a subcontractor model. And so we do have some subcontractors that will call on for projects. So we'll sub out projects, but all of our in-house guys are W-2 employees. The subcontractor model, I'm not sure how they all get away with it, you know, because some guys treat like employees, right? But call them subcontractors, so you don't have taxes, you don't pay workers' comp. But yeah, it's pretty strict in California. It's not a lot of gray area, technically.
Yeah, and I think I was talking with Nick Slavic about this yesterday, actually. When you get to a certain size, I'm interested to find out from you what size you think that is, where you have to be that much more above board, like across the board.
Yeah. You got a protection.
Yeah.
Right? You got to protect yourself. So
yeah.
For me, it was like, you know, when I had probably like 5 or 6 years ago, I kind of stopped working on job sites, and I still do from time to time, but before that, I'm working side by side with these guys, right? For years and years. I know them really well. I know their families. They know me and mine. And, you know, but at a point, I started getting to, I have some guys that I don't know that well, right? That work for me. And it's like, you know, maybe they're an apprentice, maybe they're, I don't know, one step above, you know, getting into a lead painter position. We just don't communicate that often. You know, it's like, I'm not on all the job sites all the time. There are some I'm not at all. So we don't communicate like on a regular basis. And I don't know what the depth of the character is, right? Like, I think I know, but I don't know completely. I don't know their family. I don't know how many brothers and sisters they have. I don't know how many, you know, like it's more removed, right? My foremen know them really well. They get to know them really well, but I don't know them really well. And so I mean, if you're paying somebody under the table or you don't have workers' comp and they get hurt, like, then you're like fudging numbers to try to make it work, right? Like there's stuff you can do to try to get away with stuff like that, but you just have risk, you know? And is the risk worth saving the money? You know, for some people it is, but it's not the right way. You know, I mean, you should be able to charge enough to where you can cover those costs, you know, pay things the right way, and then have the protection, right? If you're not, you probably should charge more.
I would agree. I think that's generally the rule is charge more.
Yeah. For most people never find that line of what you can charge and what you can't charge, right? Like most people hover really low. And if they don't get a couple jobs because somebody said the price was too high, they think, oh, I got all my prices are too high. I got to keep all my prices down, right? But maybe that client got bids and yours is also low. It's just higher than the other two low ones, right? But if we came and bid it, they'd be like, okay, your price is in the middle now, right? It's like, it's relative. There's no standards.
That's the problem.
It's crazy.
I know. We're working to change that little by little, but
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's very interesting when you get to a certain size, how you have to be really covering your butt. Also, like when I first started, I didn't have a dollar to my name. You could sue me all you wanted. Like it wasn't. And right. I think that that's part of it is also now as you build a company that has more value, you have more to lose. There's also that. Combined with not having that close relationship. I was listening to a podcast. They were interviewing people that had like 130 painters, 100 painters, 130 painters. And I mean, they're running a corporation. Like there's safety officers. There's the protocols that they were going through for COVID were unbelievable.
Yeah.
And, and they're working in hospitals and doing those things. But I think I was listening to that and comparing, contrasting that to my 7-person company that, we have flexibilities in a way because we are like a small family versus this like distant relationship you have as you grow because you just can't have that with everybody.
Yeah. Look, I mean, when I was a smaller company, I sold the idea that, hey, I'm owner-operated company. You want to go with some big corporation who you're never going to talk to the owner. You're never going to know him. You're just a number, right? Now, if I'm a bigger corporation, I'm saying, hey, we're here to stay. We're going to be in business 20 years from now. That small guy is working on a job. He might be out of business next year, right? Yep. It's like the different pitches. But, yeah, I mean, as you get bigger, so as we grow, we have to have a more sophisticated program. Right? Like every stage has to envelop more potential issues, right? We have to have more checkpoints, more protocols in place to mitigate issues. When we're smaller, when it's like me and 3 other guys, like I don't have to have anything in place, like I can touch everything and affect everything immediately. There doesn't have to be a plan for if we put a hole in a screen. Right, it's like I'm there. I can figure it out right on the spot.
Yeah.
But as we grow, it's like we have to have more and more protocols, like at every stage.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna share I'm gonna share something with you that I think is kind of funny and is a little intimate. But when I first like came across you on social media, I actually
Mm.
saw a video of you describing, I believe, something about your sales and lead process, and this like flow chart of all these programs and apps, and it was so sophisticated, and I
Yeah.
felt so less than when I saw. I was like, screw this guy. I'm a guy. You know that defense that you get when you see somebody that's like doing really well, and that like little inner child in you is like, my
Yeah.
first was like, oh, so good, right? It
Yeah.
didn't take long to get past that because I'm an adult now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, if you could go into that a little bit, because it was fascinating, and that video was awesome, and I've watched it a number of times.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the sophistication that you're talking about.
Yeah. So we have a whole. So first off, I hired a business consultant before putting that all together, right? And so we would meet and discuss basically scaling how to scale the company up, right? How to grow it, how to get things streamlined, how do we make a repeatable process, so it'll work every single time, no matter what, right? Um, so we did that for 3 or 4 months. I paid him like $100 an hour, something like that. And I would just go to his place. We'd sit down and like work through a new project, right? Like, okay, what's a problem we have? Getting colors in, getting them confirmed, getting them signed off by a client. How do we solve that? How do we make it automatic? So we build this template, link it on the backside of our website, and when a client signs a document, they get an automatic color selection form, right? They fill that out themselves. It pops into our little system, right? So I could, even now, right? Like I had somebody 3 days ago is like, hey, do you remember what my colors were? It's like from 2017. Go to my color selection form, and here you go. Here's your colors, right? Um, so we started working together, and then I hired that guy on full time, and so brought him on full time, and then he helped me build this whole system, right? So, but it's basically a whole automated flow. It's like client comes in, we have a CRM system that we use. So we're just entering, name, phone number, address, where the lead came from, right? And then from there, once we make an appointment with that client, we convert the lead, and then it goes into QuickBooks, it goes into Google Drive, it goes into the calendar, it goes into, like, they get a color selection form started. All this stuff happens just automatically, and it's really a very simple concept. It seems complex, but it's a really simple concept. It takes somebody to know what they're doing to set it up. But there's some people out there that do it as like, their side gig or whatever. But that makes all this stuff happen automatically. It's like before that, I would rely on other people to remember all those steps, which they wouldn't. They would forget to send a reminder or whatever, forget to put it in the calendar, or type in the phone number wrong in the calendar, type in an address wrong in the calendar. So it's like, hey, we're at the house, nobody's answering the door. Oh, it's the wrong address, right? Like all kinds of stuff like that. So this thing sends it everywhere. And then even from there, we type up an estimate in QuickBooks, send that. They get an automatic signature page that goes behind that. If they sign the signature page, they get an automatic email that comes behind that. Thank you for signing. Here's your color selection form, right? Like we have so much automation for all that stuff. It's nice because I don't think about it that often because it happens, And for our clients, it's like we look so much more professional than like 99% of the other companies out there, right? Because it's like they're getting welcome messages and confirmations for their appointments, and and our confirmation email for the appointment. We confirm an appointment for tomorrow at 2:00. They get an email that says, okay, your appointment is confirmed with so-and-so estimator at this address at this time. Attached is our workers' comp and our liability insurances. Please make sure if anyone's working in or on your home that they have these policies, right? So we're trying to cancel out people that aren't insured, right out of the gate. Um, our estimates are super professional looking. Like we usually get comments on those, how they look so much more professional than the other companies. So just at every stage, like we're trying to make it so they feel like they're taking a risk if they don't go with us, right? Like our price might be higher. Maybe our price is $1,000 higher, but look at our whole system compared to their, right? The other guys, it's like not even comparable, but maybe that $1,000 is the difference for them. So they choose someone else, but in their heads, they're taking a risk, right? That's kind of the position I want to put them in as. And in my personal opinion, they are taking a risk. Like we're not going anywhere. We're going to stand behind everything that we do. If something fails, we're going to fix it. So yeah, I believe you are taking some risk, right? And not to say that these small companies can't kill it. There's a lot of guys like on Instagram that are small shops that are killing it, doing awesome custom work. Like Turner is doing like awesome, like cutting edge stuff, and he could stay small forever and just have a schedule booked out as far as he wants and charge more per hour and whatever, you know? But those guys are few and far between.
Yeah.
It's not like you're not getting, you probably make 20 calls, 30 calls to find someone like that, So that's kind of it in a nutshell. A lot of automation we have set up.
Yeah, I think it's tremendous, and I have a long ways to go, but you're definitely an inspiration to try to get better with that stuff. I just hired an assistant. She's going to help with all that stuff.
Yeah. You're in a position too, though, where, being like in a niche market where you can kind of rule it, puts you in a different boat. You don't have to get all the automation. Like you specifically, because you're doing high-end work, high-end clients, you should give them the Nordstrom's service, right? Where it's like anything you wish we will do, right?
Yeah.
And so like that look, right? That look is nice, reminders, automation, automatic messages, thank you cards, right? Like that kind of stuff, because it looks good, it looks nice. Like a thank you card from you after a project a month or 2 months later would be a good reminder to them. Oh yeah, ZK did our place 3 months ago. There you go.
Thanks,
Nice.
Arnie. This is one of the first things that she did.
Hey, there you go. So like, look, a handwritten card with the hand signature, it goes a long way, and even if like, it's probably ideal if you send it a little bit later, so you just remind them of you,
Yeah.
and then they're at a party with friends and they just got that card last week and somebody's talking about redoing their kitchen. Hey, we had this company that was amazing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not everybody needs to do that, It's like there's certain types of businesses that are okay to just be small forever, And that's not a bad gig either. It's like you can make pretty good money being a 2 or a 3-man shop,
I think the caveat to that is those guys need to be significantly more expensive per hour than we are.
Absolutely.
And that's so rare is when you do see these guys that are 2 and 3-man companies.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to a guy today who actually was doing that. But the people that I know that are successful as a 1 and 2-man company they're charging, much higher hourly. They're billing at higher hourly rates than you and I do.
Right.
And
a lot of companies are charging less though when they're 2 or 3-man shops.
Most of the time, less than us, which doesn't make any sense.
I know. I agree. It's got to be fear, right? Fear of not getting a project. Fear of,
I think a lot of they feel like I've talked to guys and they think they're taking advantage of their charter. They're screwing over their client.
Right.
And it's, wait a second, you got to take a step back. Let's look at the numbers. Like, are you doing really well financially? Because if you're not taking advantage of anybody, first of all. And you're a great value. You're the owner. You show up every day. You are going to be faster and better than any employee is, generally. And you sure have more skin in the game.
Yeah.
But
I think Yeah, I think if they could step back and look at it from like a custom builder, like a designer, a custom leather goods maker, a custom handbag maker, a custom shoe maker, they're charging like sky high prices, right? Because it's like craftsmanship, right? Like handmade, right? If you looked at painting, doing this type of work, refinishing work, as something like that, where owner operated, custom craftsman style, hand done, like that concept, it might make sense to charge higher prices. You know, that's probably the angle I would take. Right? It's the same thing I was saying earlier, where I would outsell the big companies because I would say, hey, we're small. We know exactly what's going on every day. We don't have mistakes. We don't, you know, we're not running 10 crews out here or whatever. And then they see my company come with 10 crews and they're like, oh, are you guys going to forget me? Right?
Yeah.
Like, I would totally fight that. Yeah, the other way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think hopefully social media is helping. I know I've talked to a number of guys and
Yeah.
helped them every time. The first thing I say is like, I guarantee you're not charging enough. And if you feel bad about how you're charging, how about this? How about how you're undercutting the market and you're undercutting all of these people's livelihoods by not charging enough? How about that?
Yeah.
Karma?
Yeah.
And
That's a whole other side.
yeah. And we're all, if everybody races to the bottom, we're all going to lose.
Yep. Yeah, we probably have like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 companies in our area that are real competitors, you know, that are really like at our level. And I've met with these guys, like I've taken a few of them out to lunch and stuff like that, just to talk shop. And there's plenty of work for all of us, you know, like we could all triple in size and there's still plenty more work to do. Um, but if I'm bidding a project and, you know, they say, oh, we're getting some other estimates, you know, from other companies or whatever. And if I ask which companies you guys having out, if they name off a couple of these other companies, then I'm like, cool. You know, I'll even tell them like, that's a good company. Like they're probably our only real competition around here, right? Because I know their prices are going to be similar to ours. I know that they're a long-term business. They're going to be in business in 10 years and 20 years. They're going to stand behind their work. You know, they're paying taxes. They're paying workers' comp. Like it's all on the same level. So I don't have any problem losing a project to them, you know. But choose one of us, you know, don't like go with the one that's half the price, right?
Yeah.
But then there's 1,000 companies that are going to be half the price or whatever, 25% less than us. But those companies come and go. The economy gets really good. Everyone's a painter. Economy gets really bad. They're all out of business, you know. I don't know. Weird dilemma.
We didn't tell everybody what your market's like and what is it?
What it's like?
First of all, where is your market?
Huntington Beach, California. We're in Orange County, California. So we're Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, San Clemente.
So you're huge. Pretty curved for your hat bill is pretty curved from a guy from Orange.
Yeah. I wasn't born here.
Great bills that go up in the air.
Yeah. No, I wasn't born here. Maybe that's why. But I do have a lifted truck, so that's a giveaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's like, we just work along the coast. You know, we're a coastal company. We only cover maybe, I don't know, I guess like 25 miles up and down the coast, something like that. We don't have to travel very far for work. And it's like we could literally probably triple or quadruple in our area and not have to go outside of it still. There's just so much business. It's just construction everywhere all the time. Everyone's remodeling every few years. Real estate prices keep going up. You know, it's like, I don't know. It's crazy here. And we're like booming right now, which I think everyone is, surprisingly, all the painting companies.
It's crazy.
Weird. Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
Not to worry about what's coming when no one's working, but yeah, everyone's got money.
I know. I don't get it. I feel like it's going to come to some kind of slowdown at some point, like over the next year. But Who knows?
So what's
We'll
the
see.
limiting factor in your growth, like in the company size and where you're going? Is it finding guys?
No, I don't. No, because we could train people. A lot of guys um, have the reason or the excuse that they can't find people. And I think that's probably not true. You
Yeah.
know, um, I mean, every corporation finds people all the time and runs their multi-million, billion-dollar companies pretty smoothly every single day, 365 days a year. Like they're not finding rocket scientists to come work for them. That's why they're so successful. Target, operates however many locations seamlessly all year round. And it's not because they just find amazing employees all the time. They just have a good training program. They have good protocols. They can get someone up to speed. They have decent management, and probably a good management program. Um, so, no, I definitely don't think that's an issue. It's more of our systems to manage the next level, to like, we've got to get a project manager in for sure. And then probably another person in the office to really add on 10 more, 15 more guys, And right now it's like things are so comfortable, like with the job flow, with the amount of people, the amount of projects, the money's good. It's like I don't have a real
Oh,
reason to
man.
rock the boat.
You're
Huh?
never mind rocket.
Right. That's the thing. We went up almost twice the size 2 years ago, and we were pushing like 3 million in sales. We had 35 to 40 employees, two more people in the office, and it was like pulling my hair out all year long. Like the sales numbers looked great, right? It's like, man, we might hit 3 million this year, right? But it's like I have no money in the bank. Like we're floating payroll because we're doing so many projects. We're just getting deposit checks every day in the mail, right? Or every other day. We're getting a few thousand constantly, almost literally every day. And so our deposit checks are floating any money that we don't have, right? Like cash flow is terrible. Cash flow is good because of deposit checks. Savings was terrible. It was just stressful all year long, like super stressful. And we ended up like making no money at the end of the year. The next year we downsized and did $1 million less in business and made more money. This year will be like 1.2 million less than, I think it was 2018, 1.2 million less than 2018. And we're going to make, I don't know, 15% profit, some like crazy numbers, just because we got our system cleaner, like the sales numbers sound good. It sounds cool to say we did 3 million in sales, but the net profit is where it's at, man. That's the number you want to be high.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, so comfort right now. And I'm not very good at just like sitting still, and like just keeping things moving. I do constantly want to grow in some direction. But right now it's just streamline the systems, like get them ready, really ready to grow to the next level, because once we put those other people in position, it probably will allow us to grow by like 10 or 15 more painters. And then from there, it's like we'll need another estimator after that, and then we'll stack up another level of estimator, second project manager, more office staff, and then another 10 or 15 employees, that kind of deal. Like Shoreline, they've got all kinds of different positions, right, to run that many people. It's funny, he was talking about like having somebody that like manages the warehouse, right? Somebody's managing tape and plastic and paper. You got to do it at that level.
So they're on that job. Bill sent me a picture today. They have barcodes attached to their extension cords. So
Yeah.
their extension cords are plugged in, and there's just barcodes on these little tags that are zip tied to the extension cord.
Yeah.
Barcodes. Those extension cords had been scanned out and scanned to that job this morning before I left the shop.
Yeah.
And, you know, you just look at that and you're just like, that's out of control.
Yeah.
How do you run a 90-man painting company profitably?
Right. So I was looking around. I've got barcodes around here somewhere. I've got a roll of barcodes because that's what we're trying to do too, right? Because it's like even now, I have ladders that go missing. I have sanders. I have extension, everything. Like I have little things all over the place that just go missing, you know? And I don't know necessarily that the guys are trying to steal from me or they used something at home, left it at home, whatever. Who knows, right? I try to give them the benefit of the doubt that people aren't just stealing. But stuff goes missing all the time, you know? And if I times my 20 guys times 5, and now we have 100, how much more stuff is going to go missing? You know, like tape and paper and plastic, it's all not that expensive on its own, but, you know, like we spend $250,000 a year on paint and sundries, you know, and it's like, I'm sure somebody could go into, I could pay someone like $800 a week to just manage paint and sundries, and it would pay for themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Just on the savings. Like and as you grow, those are things you consider, right? It's like, can we save enough to justify the cost of someone to manage it? You know, employees clocking in and clocking out. If everybody clocks in, you know, or gains a half hour per day, times 20 guys is 10 hours, you know, that's $200 a day, $250 a day. You know what I mean? Like one person can just keep an eye on everybody every single day. And I could pay him $500 a week and I would still save another $400 a week. You know, it's like there's numbers like that start to come up where you just start to like mitigate loss. You know, it's like loss prevention, loss control, you know, where you can actually make up money in those areas, you know. Even just, you know, downsizing from 3 million to 1.5 or 1.7, we have so much less loss right now. You know, it's not that we just are getting rid of all that loss. You know, we cut off all that fat and we're really profitable. Our numbers are good. You know, our estimates are good. But at that level, it's like, you know, if a couple guys on a crew are buddy and they're the only two on the job and they want to go have a 2-hour lunch, I might not hear about it, right? I might not know they took a 2-hour lunch. You know, if one guy leaves 3 hours early and his buddy covers for him, I might not ever know that happened, you know? So, you know, it's stuff like that where our system for reviewing projects and reviewing the budget after the fact wasn't tight enough to run that many people, you know, because if it were, we would know like that project lost $400. You know, why did it lose 400? Dive into it, investigate it. Is it an estimator issue? Is it a on-site issue, material issue, whatever? And nip it in the bud before you just keep making the same mistake over and over, you know?
Yeah, I think scale definitely exposes those leaky, you know, often I think like that. It's like when you're small, it's easier. It doesn't feel as painful to be super inefficient, but it's more important. But when you're inefficient by 10%, it might be a couple $100 versus thousands and thousands of dollars when you get bigger. But
definitely, yeah, it's just compounded. You know, it's like somebody who does one project per week, maybe they have I don't know, an accident on the job site, or they break something on a job site 1 out of every 10 projects, 1 out of every 20 projects, let's say. Well, we do 10 projects a week. So we still have 1 out of every 20, but that's 1 every 2 weeks, right? That's one broken thing every 2 weeks if you're doing that many projects. It's still the same odds. It's just compounded. It comes faster, you know?
And so it's easy to address in some ways.
What's that?
So it becomes easier to address because you actually see it. When you're and I did this in the past. I don't know. I had probably 15 9-inch roller handles. I know I had 5 18-inch roller handles for a company of 2 people, 3 people. But it's like how many times you don't have the 18-inch roller handle and you go out, you have to run out, you leave the job site, and you go buy another 18-inch roller handle because the other one's a 45-minute drive away or 30-minute drive away. Right. I used to accumulate all of these tools, like duplicates, triplicates, and quadruplicates, like, you know, and all those things where it's like, oh, it's only $40.
Right.
Right. Because it's small. It feels the numbers are smaller, but the percentages are just as big.
Right.
Oftentimes, the smaller companies, when we don't know what we're doing, I had way smaller margins. I couldn't afford a 5% mortgage rate nearly the way a Shoreline could afford it. Their margins are much better. And it's so funny when I talk to smaller guys. I was so guilty of that, and I think a lot of us are. When you're small, your mistakes don't feel as painful, even though oftentimes they can be worse.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's the compounded thing really, it's across all lanes, because it's like, can be compounded profit, can be compounded loss. You know, it's way easier to see savings on a big picture when you're looking at that volume. You know, it's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, was the first time we asked for a discount on our pricing for paint, you know? And I'm not a kind of guy who would shop my prices, who would pick company against company, anything like that. And we've been with this company, and I've had the same sales rep for like 15 years, something like that. And never asked them for a discount on pricing, nothing like that, right? And when the business consultant came on board, he's like, why wouldn't you ask for a discount? You know, I'm like, we charge enough, right? Like, I charge for what it cost me. You know, like, I cover my cost. I know what my cost is, and I bill accordingly. He's like, all right, let me just run some numbers on it, right? He's like, do whatever you want. You know, I don't care. Check the numbers. So then he's like, all right, look, if we just get like a 5% discount, you'll save $60,000 this year. I'm like, oh, crap. All right. That's a big number, right? All right, let's get a 5% discount, you know? But like those little bits and pieces, like you could save a little bit just on something small and insignificant, but times 1,000 is something real. You know, it's real money.
It occurred to me today and tomorrow, very soon, I am going to go ask for a discount on paint. I have a lot of friends, Chris from Shoreline particularly, who make fun of me a lot because I pay retail price for fine paints of Europe. Yeah. My dealer is an amazing guy. My paint store, they nominated me and helped me get certified before I ever had the body of work that you really needed to have. They've supported me. They send me amazing referrals. And I've always just been like, you know what? Like, I'm cool with that, you know? Yeah. And then I like go buy paint in Boston from a company I've never bought paint from. And because
better price,
I instantly get like 10 or 15% off. And I was like, and then Chris pays for paint and I want to puke. And I'm just like, you know what? I got to stop paying retail. And I'm going to I'm going to sit down because now it's starting to really add up. We buy a lot more paint than we ever did. Yeah. And I'm paying full price for $155 for 3/4 of a gallon. Yeah. I'm glad we had this conversation because this is going to spur me to go do that because I've just been putting it off forever.
Yeah. It's totally fair. Look, I mean, they have markups. They have room for discounts. You know, we're the biggest buyer at this one location. We're the biggest buyer. You know, we bring them more business than anybody else does. And they have room for it. They treat us well, but they also want us to keep coming back. You know, like I wouldn't threaten them like, hey, if you don't give us a discount, I'm going somewhere else, right? I wouldn't do that. But I do want them to take care of me. I want them to get my guys in and out quickly, you know. But there's plenty of guys who, it's like squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? There's plenty of guys who are just on the sales rep all the time for lower price, you know?
Sure.
And we're spending $250,000 and we got somebody who's spending like 40 grand and they're getting better pricing than me, you know? So there's definitely room for them to.
In a year. And
what's that?
Shoreline buys like well over $1 million of paint a year.
Yeah.
And he's got there's like a full-time employee at his supplier that just its account. Yeah. And he grinds those guys. on price,
Yeah.
but he has
Yeah.
leverage, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
that's where I always like. I don't want to like flex my leverage in this situation, but
Yeah.
what are we talking about here? This is business, you know.
Yeah.
Not a chip.
Right. It's not personal. It's just business, right? It's not. It really isn't a personal thing. You know, like I want to keep buying from you. I want to keep. I like the service. I like everything, but I think with the amount that I spend, I'm giving you guys enough volume. Let's talk about a discount, right?
Yeah, I had
It's
the
reasonable.
paint store multiple times. This summer, he at 5 o'clock drove me a gallon of stain to a job site an hour and delivered it. And those things are invaluable. The referrals are invaluable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think I'm paying way too much for paint. So
Yeah. 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 My sales rep, we've been together for 15 years or so. And yeah, I mean, he's down for whatever. Like he'll do whatever I ask him to, But I don't ask him a lot either. He knows that if I need him to be somewhere at some certain time for some project walk or whatever, he knows it's probably important to me, so he'll do it. But I'm not on the phone with him every day like some of these guys, hounding him about whatever. He's got some guys that are just on him all the time and they're spending $1,000 a month, whatever.
that's where I think when you get to that next level and you have a purchasing, like someone's in charge of purchasing, then it's not you that goes there and does it. And then it's even more just business.
Right.
And
yeah, when you become separated from like different pieces of the business, it really becomes a numbers thing. It becomes a whatever. It's not. Yeah, you're just looking at a spreadsheet. What does the health of the company look like, right? And it's like they're just numbers. I don't ever really want to have a company where I don't know the people that work for me. But if it ever does get to that point, then I want the people under me to know those people really well, right? Like they're the face of my company. They represent me. Like right now, most of my foremen are guys that I've worked side by side with, so they know how I like to do things. They know what I would do in a certain situation. They know how I would handle a client. Like they can represent me pretty well, which I think is important. Like empowering them to be able to kind of lead a project, on site. I think is really important. It's like you're the face of your company on site.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's the hardest part to let go. And a lot of what we've been talking about here is you have to be out of the field to make a lot of this stuff happen. And I know for me, finally, my big step. Some people ask some questions, and we'll get to them in a minute. But someone has sort of talked about this, and I think for me, when I finally was like, I am not going to paint anymore. I'm going to force myself to stop, even though it's going to hurt me in the short term.
Yeah.
It magically allows you to start to see things from above and have all this extra time to build a company. And I think that's obviously what you've done. What was your experience like when you first left the field? How did you make that happen? What did it look like?
So I didn't want to do it unless I could manage the quality, right? That was the thing I was always afraid of. Like we built a reputation for being like a really high quality company. And so I only wanted to grow if I could manage that, if I could maintain it, right? So in the beginning, it started out just like with 2 crews, right? And it's all guys that I know, all guys that have worked directly with me. And just trying that out and trying to do more sales, And so, but it was still like 1 foot in, 1 foot out to some extent, right? Like it's, I don't know, if it's crunch time, we need to get something done. If it's a really difficult project, right? If something's going sideways, right, and we can't figure out how to get this finished right, then I'll get out there and work on it. But there became a point where it's like our phone is ringing so much, like I couldn't do both. I couldn't do both well, So letting go of the day-to-day on-site was tough. just because I couldn't 100% control the outcome, you know? So I had to be okay with like 95% control. And then figure out some protocols to get me up to like 98% control, you know? And so that's where I strive to be now, is like 98% control, you know, so that I can know, I can predict what the outcomes are going to be. The 2% of not being able to control it, I got to train my guys well. You know, it's a training thing, right? Most of the mistakes or issues that we have now are only due to training. You know, it's like guys just do things the way that they learned rather than how I think they should do them. But they just need more training. You know, it's not their fault necessarily. They learned some bad ways of patching or priming or sanding or whatever. But training would have fixed it, right? If I had spent more time on training. So right now it's like my main focus is tightening up our systems to scale up, and then figuring out how to do really solid training, you know, which is tough to do, you know, because we still put out a decent amount of work, and asking a foreman to slow down his day so he could train somebody new, you know, it's a big ask.
It's
So,
a very special type of person.
yeah, definitely. Special learner and teacher, right? You gotta kind of want to learn, and you really have to want to teach, right? It's not, a lot of guys don't want to teach someone, you know?
Especially the guys that are really good at it.
Yeah. Yep.
They didn't get it by teaching it all the time. They did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the whole training side of things, you know, I've been trying to figure out and kind of mapping out some training protocols. And, you know, we put some stuff on the back end of our website, like employees only, you know, employee only access, to do training stuff. But it's still, I almost need to hire somebody like to come to the shop, make me do 6 hours of training videos, and then post them for me, you know, like that's probably what's going to happen next, because I have to get the training nailed. You know, I can't not do it. I'm not going to grow anymore until I get that part taken care of. It's all simple stuff. It's really simple concepts, you know. How to prepare something is a really easy concept, but if I have a newer guy to the company, and like a lot of foremen want to be like, okay, you know how to paint? Okay, go take care of the baseboards, right? We need to get them ready to paint. Go ahead and sand them and patch them, right? And they just let them go, you know, assuming you know how I know, right? You know my way of doing it. Let them go, and it's like, oh, the caulking's a mess. All the nail holes are sunken in, like, you know. And then they paint over it thinking it was done right, and then it's like, oh, we got touch-ups everywhere, you know. But that could have been taken care of really easy with some simple training, you know. All the kind of loss that we have now is really just training, you know, even for foremen, just training for them, keeping up on our client communication, keeping up on starting a project, closing out a project, just training stuff. It's not rocket science, you know. I think that a lot of finish work, fine finish work, becomes more of an artistic thing. And I think that's high skill. You know, that's not something just anybody can learn. But understanding a concept of how to get good adhesion, that is a thing you can be trained to do, right? That's more of a science thing. It's not art, right? How to prepare a surface, if it's peeling, that's more scientific, not so much art. You know, a lot of these things can be taught to anybody. Whether someone's going to show up on time, try, any of that stuff, that's character, so whatever. But as far as training somebody, getting an apprentice or getting somebody that has some experience and then training them up is totally doable. You know, but you got to be on it. You know, I go through spurts where I'm really good about training for like 2 weeks, and then a little worse on the third week, a little worse on the fourth week, and then I haven't done it in 2 months. You know, it's like the time slips away. So I just need a more formal system. I've been waiting for like you or PCA to have a real legit system.
We're working
you know,
on
that I can just point all my guys to.
Yeah,
I know, I might. Huh?
We're working with the PCA.
Yeah.
That's my goal, because they have those basic ones,
Yeah.
and I think what we're finding is a lot of this stuff can be done remotely, you know. But then there's a lot of stuff that has to be done in person too. There's other stuff that needs to be done in person, and that's where what we're really focusing on with ZK Finishing School is going to be the stuff that you really do need to kind of do it and see it and feel it to get it. And
but
I
that's
think
different. That's art.
that's the art. Yeah, and that's not now. My goal is in the future to have a traveling the ability to travel and teach a wider range of skills. That's not just the ultra high end stuff. If we can get really good at teaching, I think we can develop apprentice level classes where we could come into town with a tractor trailer with all the stuff, unload out right there. People in the area could send their guys, and really quickly, or the idea of the training the trainers is always big too. That's the holy grail if you can figure out how to do it. So I think my goal is definitely someone needs to do this, and the PCA tried, and I think if we can work together, and I'm going to start small and teach what I already know and I can do and I've done before. I think the goal is definitely to build that into a larger facility, and then start to have the budgets to be able to have somebody just dedicated to building out all these classes.
Yeah. This has been something that has been on my mind for years to do, right? Paint School, that name was originally for this idea, right? It's like whoever figures out how to put together legit system, like, look, if you could do some kind of accreditation, even if it's just BS, right? You're not actually accredited anywhere, but you become reputable and you go through an apprenticeship program in phase 1, phase 2, phase 5, whatever. You completed the apprenticeship program. Like me as a business owner, I would pay for one of my guys to go there, right? Or to get that training. If it cost me $1,000 to go to 5 classes and they get basic understanding of all these phases, it's totally worth it to me, right? If I can get somebody, like, there's a lot of value in that. And for someone like me to be able to put somebody through a program like that and have them come out, and I know that they understand all the basics, right? They have a working knowledge of these 10 areas or whatever. There's a lot of value in that, you know? I mean, it's big business, and there's nobody that does it well right now. CertaPro, they have a franchise, and they put together I think a warehouse or something like that, where they're trying to do a school for their franchisees.
I hate to cut you off, but I'm super paranoid about this countdown. There's a minute left. I'm gonna end it. We'll hop right